estimates and compare. Your home could be worth more than you think. Visit Ownerly.com today.
Actors Johnny Depp and Amber Heard were very busy making movies during their relationship. Oftentimes, they would be in different cities for weeks at a time. In 2014, Johnny was in Boston and Amber was in New York, and they decided to take a flight together back to LA. But that flight was not a happy reunion.
You would agree that you were very drunk on that flight, correct?
I do not agree that I was very drunk on that flight.
I fell to the floor. I caught myself on the floor, and I just felt like I was looking at the floor of the plane felt like a long time.
This hour, we take you inside the plane ride to try to figure out what really happened. Was Amber beaten in front of everyone on the plane? Did Johnny avoid Amber and just pass out in the bathroom? What are the witnesses saying, and what does the evidence reveal?
I know that I knew that I was going to have a very ugly, I was going to end up with a very ugly situation with Amber.
He sits down in front of me at one point, and because I'm not answering him, I was looking out of the window, and he slaps my face.
An in-depth look at Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard with our panel of experts starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. If we're learning anything from Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, it's that fame and money are not an automatic recipe for happiness. We've seen a lot of ugliness. And you talk about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, both of them anything but ugly, right? These are movie stars. This is a movie star couple that are in the midst of great careers. Johnny Depp, a legendary career, and Amber Heard on the way up. I mean, everything should be great. But there's a part of being a movie star and married to a movie star that creates some challenges in a relationship, right? Many people travel for work, but in their business, they both have to travel. But it's not traveling for a couple days. It's not going to do a presentation. Like, they're going away for weeks, months at a time, where they could potentially be separated in different cities on different projects. You know, we go back to 2014, Johnny Depp at that point was shooting a movie in Boston. So he's in Boston working on his project, an important project, like every movie is. You're getting paid millions of dollars to do it. You're very focused on the work. You want to get it done. You look for those days off. And at the time that he's in Boston, Amber Heard is working down in New York, which is relatively close, but when you're working 14-hour days shooting a movie, it's not like you have time to see one another. So they both ended up getting a little bit of time and were able to get reunited. And you wonder, this being separated, did it make their hearts grow fonder, right? A lot of times, absence will do that, right? You don't see your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your friend. You're like, wow. You know, when you get together, it's like a time to celebrate. It's like, wow, this is great. I missed you so much. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait till we're finally back together. I know we have to work, but when we get together, it's gonna be great. So Johnny and Amber got together, they had some time, and there was a flight. They were gonna fly from the East Coast to the West Coast, Johnny Depp's daughter's birthday. Amber was picked up in New York by the private plane, which then went to Boston and picked up Johnny. So they're on this airplane, and let me tell you, on this plane, extreme turbulence. And it had nothing to do with flying conditions, and had everything to do with what was happening inside. This was not a pretty scene. There are different versions, like everything else in this trial, different versions. But let me give you a little idea of what Amber Heard's side is alleging is taking place on this flight when they are finally back together, flying from Boston to LA.
You'll hear evidence that before one of the instances of abuse, a cross-country plane flight in May 2014 from Boston to Los Angeles when he kicked Amber in the back on a private jet. You'll hear evidence that he had had no food for days, that he had used cocaine, that he had had half a bottle of whiskey, that he had had countless Red Bulls and vodkas, that he had taken pills, and on the plane decided to top all that off with 2 bottles of champagne. You'll hear evidence of that. And he blacked out on the plane, and he abused Amber and didn't remember anything about it when he woke up.
Now, Johnny Depp has a different version of all of that, but let's go back to why they are separated and where they are. Johnny Depp is filming a movie. It's called Black Mass. Involves Whitey Bulger, the legendary mobster from Massachusetts. Let's take a look at a clip from that movie.
It's not what you do, it's when and where you do it. And who you do it to or with. If nobody sees it, didn't happen.
Jimmy, he's 6. You really think that's the best thing to be telling your kid?
Yeah.
Great actor, right? But that's what he was filming. Meanwhile, Amber Heard was in New York filming the Adderall Diaries. And what's really crucial to this project was who she was co-starring with. Take a look.
There's no way he buried the body that close.
Oh yeah, where would you dump a body?
Hudson Canyon.
Looks like they have pretty good chemistry on camera there, right? All right, so James Franco's been in the middle of this whole thing the whole time. We know he's on a witness list, but there's a history. It's a big part of this case. So I want you to take a listen to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp from their testimony talking about James Franco and how that all relates to this plane ride.
He was mad at me for taking the job with James Franco. He hated James Franco and was already accusing me of kind of secretly having a thing with him in my past since we had done Pineapple Express together. Eventually went from, do you have something to tell me, to, you want to tell me how much you liked it. Tell me, did he slip a tongue? It got worse and worse, just more. It went from asking me about how my kissing scene went or how the sex scene went to asking me what James Franco had done in the scene to being really explicit about my body.
You suspected that Amber was having an affair with James Franco, correct? That was the reason for your argument.
Yeah, yes.
And when you got on the plane, you considered that she was also being judgmental toward you because she believed that you were inebriated and under the influence of drugs, correct?
That was a constant.
Okay, so as this flight begins, there is tension. There is absolute tension. On the one hand, because of the James Franco issue. On the other hand, Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, is he under the influence? Is she suspicious of being under the influence? But that always causes problems between the two. Let's bring in our guests. Joining me tonight in Los Angeles, California, family law litigator, TikTok lawyer, Limor Mojdahiyazat. You can check her out on TikTok at Lawyer Limor. Remember, it's L-I-M-O-R. Also in Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, and columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Great to see you both. Limor, let's talk about that tension. You're out in Hollywood, you're actually both out in Hollywood, out in LA. The thing that I'm learning about all this is I'm really surprised, or maybe I shouldn't be surprised, that there's seems to be jealousy. Like, everyone's an actor, you know you're performing, yet there's allegations that Johnny is very jealous of James Franco or suspicious of Amber Heard and James Franco. I'm a little surprised by that, Limor, but should I be?
No, you absolutely shouldn't be, because it's all about the new hot thing, right? In our regular lives, sometimes it's that way, and in Hollywood, it is absolutely that way. Whether it's for work or a relationship, it's always like that. If you remember Brangelina, right? When they did Mr. and Mr. Smith, rumors started the second we knew they were cast together, right? So it's a thing in Hollywood and in regular life.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, talk to me about that. You know, they've got to do love scenes, sex scenes, but they're married. We've seen some relationships last through the years, but others not so much. What are your thoughts about the tension on this flight focused around Franco?
Well, you know, I think it's more about him suspecting Amber, not trusting Amber, whether it's James Franco or Elon Musk. You know, he knew that she was looking for the next best thing, that she was looking for the next best thing. But, you know, in Hollywood, it really is, actors really, you know, get into these relationships when they're cast together. And then when they leave the set, you know, and they don't have lines or they don't have a script to follow, the relationships often fall apart. And but again, it was Johnny met her on the set of The Rum Diary, and that was how he fell under her spell, because it was really about the character that she played, Chenault, and the fact that he was really, you know, connected to this film, and I think he fell in love with the character, and then later he found out what Amber Heard was all about.
That's interesting. Lamore, how do you see this relationship? Do you see Johnny falling under her spell, she falling under Johnny's spell? How is it that they could be so hot and heavy, right? And then be where we are today inside this courtroom?
I think it's because, you know, Hollywood is just a different world, right? They were both under each other's spells, right? We have Johnny Depp, who's a legend, no matter what he looks like or how much money he has, he's just a Hollywood legend, right? And then we have Amber Heard, who was auditioning for a role that Johnny Depp could give her, right? And she's hot and young, and we've seen text messages between him and other witnesses that are all about how pretty he thinks she is, right? It's not about their bond or anything like that. It's about her looks. So, you know, they were both under a spell coming from different angles, right?
Dr. Carol Lieberman, your thoughts about Johnny Depp and his state of mind on that plane, that he's under the influence of something, right? We know that he's admitted so much. There's a discrepancy about whether he was drinking or not. He's saying he's taking pills. Right. Your thoughts about that and how that adds to the tension between these two?
Well, you know, yes, he said he was taking OxyContin, and he admits to that. He says he doesn't recall taking alcohol, but it seemed like, you know, he was sort of denying that he did. He didn't think he did. But, you know, this is really their trick that they let on from the beginning, Amber Heard's team, legal team, because their whole thing is to say that he was blacked out and he didn't know all these horrible things that he did to Amber on the plane and at other times during their relationship. Now, you know, how do you refute someone saying, well, you were blacked out and you did this, this, and this, and you just don't remember? I mean, one way to refute it is on the plane, in any case, there were witnesses. So if they saw him do these things or they didn't see him do these things, you know, that is one way to tell. And I don't think that that testimony has come out yet saying that that they did witness him doing these things.
Lamore, let me ask you about one other aspect of this. Again, you're a family law expert. From your experience, what happens to, is it common that you see couples who have one or both that have to travel a lot for work and they're separated during the marriage for weeks, perhaps months at a time? Is that a common cause of potentially splitting apart rather than having absence make the heart grow fonder and make the times together more intense and better, that it can draw people apart as well?
You know what typically happens in situations like that, when there's a dynamic that, you know, it's just a regular thing that we're always apart for work, Oftentimes you see that there is infidelity, but the couple does not break up because of it. It just becomes part of the dynamic. So in those situations, something bigger than just an affair with someone the other partner will never see again is what will break up that relationship.
But if it's someone that you may be in another movie with, it could be another story. This is fascinating. All right, Lamar Mojdahizad, Dr. Carol Lieberman staying with us the whole hour. When we come back, we'll take a look at Johnny Depp's state of mind on that plane. Was he drunk? Was he just taking the Roxys? What does the evidence tell us? We'll take a look.
I can guess by how he's moving, how he's walking. I didn't realize at the time I had already become really sensitive to these little changes because my life changed depending on what he was on. We take off, and at some point he's asking me what's wrong with me, what do I have something to tell him? Do I have something to tell him? You want to talk to me about your day yesterday? And then it gets, I already know that he's drunk. I already know he's using, he reeks of weed and alcohol. I mean, his breath smelled so bad, and I could, I could anticipate that there was a no-win situation here. There was no me talking myself out of this or talking him down or any.
We are taking a close, in-depth look at that plane ride from Boston to LA, and there's Amber Heard describing Johnny Depp, saying that he's drunk. And Johnny Depp is denying this. He's saying he wasn't drunk. He's saying he was taking Roxy's. Let's bring back in our guest, still with us, family law litigator, TikTok lawyer, Limor Mojdeh-Hiyazad, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. And joining us now, special guest in Orlando, Florida, human behavior expert, Susan Constantine, back with us. Great to have everyone here. Susan, I want you to take a listen to Johnny Depp here, describing his state of mind on that plane, on the issue of whether or not he was drunk. Take a look at it and tell me what you see. Let's watch.
You would agree that you were very drunk on that flight, correct?
I do not agree that I was very drunk on that flight.
And you would agree that you had taken drugs either before or during that flight, correct?
I had taken a double dose of the roxycodone, which is different than a blackout.
But you don't agree that you were very drunk?
I don't recall drinking a whole. You don't need to drink a whole lot when you're on those things. You don't have time.
You just testified you weren't drunk on the flight, okay?
I don't recall being drunk, no.
All right, Susan Constantine, what did you see there in his answer on cross-examination on an important issue for Amber Heard, which is whether or not he was drinking?
Well, we're talking about his perception about what is considered drinking, right? Was he drunk in his mind? No, he wasn't drunk compared to everything else he's done in his past. So when you look at his facial expressions, he kind of purses his lips and he shrugs his shoulders. He looks down, his mouth turns down slightly. And it's because what he's doing, he's thinking, he's contemplating his mind, well, that's not how it works. That's not what being drunk is. That is what being on drugs does, and they're two different things. See, he's been living this life for so long, he knows what each type of substance does to his body, and somehow over time, he has learned to minimize that.
Limor, what are your thoughts about distinguishing between being under the influence of drugs versus alcohol versus whether it's cocaine, Quaaludes, Roxy, and how that impacts what may or may not have happened on this plane?
Well, it all depends on, do you remember what occurs when you're on X substance, right? So the difference between that is going to make or break the argument for the defense or make and break the argument for the plaintiff's side.
And Dr. Carol Lieberman, your thoughts about the difference in someone's mind when they are drunk versus when they're on drug X or drug Y? Is there a big difference? And would someone who uses them all the time understand those differences?
I think that he has, he's had a lot of experience with these different kinds of drugs and alcohol and so on. And I think he has somewhat of a sense of each of them. But, you can get to a point where whether you've combined things or, taken more than something than usual, you could theoretically not remember or not perceive it correctly. That's why it comes back to witnesses or it comes back to her recording. She supposedly recorded him during this flight, as she has basically throughout their life.
Let's take a listen to that recording. right, Dr. Carroll, I'll give you the first crack at the howling. What's your take on it? And then we'll just go around the horn on that, because it was a big part of their case.
Yes, he was supposed to be howling. I mean, he sounds very unhappy. He sounds like an animal, but he sounds like a wounded animal, as I think he was from all of the abuse that she has been giving him, verbal abuse as well as, of course, physical abuse.
Susan Constantine, your thoughts on the
Well, he's mentioned more than once that he does drugs to numb his pain from his childhood wounds and the abuse that he went through. And when he's in that altered state of mind, think about that he is responding to the stimulus of that drug. So who knows if it was a psychotropic drug, what sort of mind, where he was going in it, and what was the reaction? What was he really thinking? Was it a psychotropic drug? Was he seeing things? God knows. I've never been on drugs, don't know anyone on drugs, so I can't speak to the fact of what that howling was. All it did sound bizarre, and it sounded like something that was out in the woods that I'd want to stay away from.
Lamar, do you think this damages his credibility, the howling? What does it tell the jury?
Listen, to me, that howling sounds like you're either howling in your sleep or you're on something. I don't think that it's evidence that someone was abused or perpetrated abuse. So I think it's just, he says, I wasn't drunk, but he does admit he was on something. Is that the typical reaction of someone on that substance? I don't know, but that sounds like a howl.
Again, I mean, this is a case unlike any other case we've ever seen. We're seeing and hearing everything that regular people and movie stars try to hide from the public all the time. Johnny Depp brought the lawsuit. He knows all this is coming out. He wants the world to see and hear it. When we come back, we're going to get to the crucial moment on the plane, because Amber Heard says this is the first time she was ever physically abused in front of other people. Her description and our analysis of that description when we come back.
Call our helpline now.
When I arrived on the plane, I was not feeling any pain, and I knew that she was ready for some kind of brawl, and I sat on the plane drawing. I was drawing in my notebook. She would verbally heckle, hassle, accuse, poke, prod physically, poke and prod psychologically, emotionally.
Who's the instigator on this plane ride? Is it, on the one hand, is it Amber Heard who's poking and going after him because he's on the Roxy's, or is it Johnny Depp because he's under the influence and he's jealous and he's lashing out against Amber Heard? I mean, those are the two versions that we're seeing here. But nonetheless, Amber Heard testified that this was the first time she was physically abused in front of other people. Still with us, Lamar Mojdahizad, Dr. Carol Lieberman, and Susan Constantine. Let's take a look now. Here she is, Amber Heard, part of her description of that attack on the plane ride.
I remember moving more than once, and Johnny came to me each time, not the other way around. He sits down in front of me at one point, and because I'm not answering him, I was looking out of the window, and he slaps my face. And his friend is in our proximity. And it didn't hurt my face. It just felt embarrassed that he would do that to me in front of people. It was the first time that anything like that had happened in front of somebody. I walk away from him. My back is turned to him, and I feel this boot in my back. He just kicked me in the back. I fell to the floor. I caught myself on the floor, and I just felt like I was looking at the floor of the plane felt like a long time. And I thought to myself, I don't know what to do. I can't believe he just kicked me? No one said anything. No one did anything. It was like you could hear a pin drop on that plane.
Susan Constantine, what did you notice there? Human behavior expert.
A lot of things are going on there. First of all, we're seeing Johnny Depp, and he's talking about these slicing gestures that she's coming at him. So, and that is consistent with his words. So I think that this conversation is going back and forth. I don't think it's one more than the other. I think that both of them are not telling you the full story because they use terms like at some point. So when you say at some point, what was preceding that point is why they omit, they leave out, and that's really crucial information, and they're doing that for a purpose. The other thing is, what I'm watching her is that she doesn't say he kicked her at first. She said she felt a boot on her back. But then she doesn't really show any motion in her gestures, like he forced me or there was movement. I don't see any illustrative gestures in her body language to say that she was being forced or pushed down. The other thing is that I noticed consistently throughout her testimony, she always shows anger and contempt in her facial expressions and disgust. You see her crinkling up her nose a lot. This is how she feels about him as a person, but I don't see the tears. The gestures and the expressions oftentimes in Amber don't match up. So I think that this is one of those examples where she starts to add additional dialogue that may not be true. So I don't find that to be totally credible.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, your thoughts. This is an important moment because she's saying this is the first time he's being physical, so brazen that he's just doing it in front of everyone.
Well, I think that's one of the most interesting parts of this, because it's not so much about, oh, so is he going to break up with me because he thinks I'm having sex with my co-stars. It's not about that, or did he hurt me? You know, it's about that he did this in front of people. So why that's so upsetting to her is because I think that the main reason she got into this relationship with him, not that he isn't attractive and sexy and intelligent and charming and all of these other things, but I think her primary thing was she was looking for him. She wanted to be on his arm. She wanted to be get better roles. She wanted to, you know, be lifted up in Hollywood by being his partner. And so that's why she is so upset about him doing this in front of other people. It's ruining the image. How could he do this? If he did this, which I'm not buying 100%, but if he did this, you know, why that shouldn't be the main thing that you're worried about, that he did it in front of other people.
Lamore, I want you to take a listen to Johnny Depp here being cross-examined, and this is about the day after this flight. And take a listen and let me know what you think and what impact this testimony will have on the jury understanding what happened on the plane.
And in this email to Amber, the day after this plane flight, you write her and you say, once again, I find my place, Once again, I find myself in a place of shame and regret. Of course, I am sorry. I really don't know why or what happened, but I will never do it again. I want to get better for you and for me. I must. My illness somehow crept up and grabbed me. I can't do it again. I can't live like that again. And I know you can't either. I must get better, and I will. For us both, starting today, I love you. Again, I'm so sorry, so sorry. I love you and feel so bad for letting you down. Yours. Did I read that right?
You did.
Always that little smile when he answers the question. It takes like cross-examination, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh. So, Lamore, what are your thoughts about that apology email that he is acknowledging that he wrote?
That email does not help Johnny Depp at all, because that is a deep apology for something extreme. That's what it sounds like. You don't apologize for something very minor in that manner, right? It sounds like he's apologized before. Now he's putting it in writing to reinforce it to her that he is apologizing for something, possibly abuse, we don't know, but for something bigger than just something little.
Susan Constantine, any take on his reaction as it's being read, or the actual words that he chooses in that email?
Well, when he's talking about what he's really sorry for, I think that he did and respond in a way that he was not happy about, and he was owning to it. But he doesn't really state what he's saying. He doesn't tell you what he did. So we know there was a lot of things that were going on that airplane, and he was based on Amber, he was flicking ice at her and so forth, which I believe was truthful, by the way. I analyzed that, and I think that she was telling the truth. The question being is that what he's speaking about? Is it because they had this bantering back and forth? Was he speaking to her in a disrespectful manner that he's really sorry for? But he doesn't mention abuse, so I don't think we can attach the two together unless we know more information.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, what are your thoughts about the apology?
Well, you know, he's been apologizing to her a lot during their relationship, and he has said that he does it in part because he's trying to placate her. He's trying to calm her. He doesn't want more of her abuse, so he's trying to say things and do things that will make her happy. He has said that will make her happy, so that she will be calmer and nicer to him. So I don't think we can, you know, he doesn't say specifically. I mean, he could have been apologizing for blaming her, you know, for having an affair with James Franco. We don't really know.
So whether or not there was physical abuse on this plane ride is a key part to this whole case, because if the jury believes this story, it's over for Johnny Depp, right? I mean, the trial is over, and I think it damages his reputation, and because it confirms her allegations. But there's other people on this flight. I want to put this up on the screen because we've got a list of who was on that flight. You've got Jerry Judge, who is Johnny Depp's bodyguard. He has passed away subsequently, but you've got Savannah McMillan, Amber Heard's friend. She described her as her friend. You've got Keenan Wyatt, the sound engineer who worked for Johnny Depp. And then you've got Stephen Deuters, who is Johnny Depp's assistant. So at the end of the day here, Lamar, this jury, I think, will listen to whatever these folks have to say. Because we're hearing one thing from Johnny, one thing from Amber, and there's other people on the plane. So, I mean, to me, that unwraps the key to the whole thing, trying to figure out what happened here.
I think so too. I completely agree. And I think that they'll focus on the relationships those people have to each of the parties as well.
All right. Susan Constantine, human behavior expert. Great to see you again tonight. Thank you so much. Lamar, Dr. Carol Lieberman staying with us. When we come back, we're going to take a look at that list we just went through of the other witnesses. Who's going to testify? Who has testified? What are they going to say? All of that when we return.
For smarter greens from Force Factor.
I remember Jerry Judge was on the flight. Savannah was on the flight. Ms. Hurd. Keenan, Wyatt, Stephen Duders. I believe that's it.
Okay, these are people on the plane, but these are witnesses. These are witnesses to what happened on that plane. What did they see? What did they hear? Well, one of them has testified. Keenan Wyatt, the sound engineer, friend of Johnny Depp, worked for Johnny Depp in all his movies as his sound engineer. Here's what he said about what he saw and heard on that plane.
It's your testimony that Mr. Depp didn't kick Amber?
I didn't see anything like that.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Depp go to the back of the plane and pass out and moan loudly?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall that either?
No.
All right. I saw nothing, heard nothing. I mean, it's a private plane, so it's not, I don't think it's a 747 stretch, right? So it's relatively controlled environment. Let's bring back in our guests, Limor Mojdehizad and Dr. Carol Lieberman. Limor, what do you think of Keenan Wyatt's testimony? How much weight does it have? And what does it tell you? And what will it tell the jury?
When you see a witness on cross, first of all, we know you're not getting anything out of the other side's witness on cross-examination, right? But I think that everyone knows a response like, I don't recall, means I'm not telling you. You might not remember, right? But I don't recall is very much, I'm not telling you.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, this is not a huge, I mean, it's a jet, all of that, but it's a private jet, so it's not this huge commercial thing where Johnny Depp is in the back in row 55 and someone else is in the front and you're not going to see what's happening. So what do you make of Keenan Wyatt's testimony here?
Well, first of all, I don't recall always means I'm not going to tell you. Sometimes it is, a way of slithering out of answering, but sometimes you don't really recall. Sometimes you're not sure, and so you don't want to say the wrong thing, not because you're lying, you're not sure that you recall correctly. But, I think the other thing that he said, like he didn't see him, he kicking her or whatever. Excuse me. He didn't see him do that. I think this is going to come down to Amber has Savannah on the plane. That could be her ace in the hole. In other words, not necessarily that Johnny really did do something, but does Amber have enough? Can Amber get Savannah to lie? If he didn't do something, and I'm not saying that she is going to lie or did lie or whatever, but that could be, since she was on the plane, Amber's way of trying to get something in that maybe didn't happen.
Limor, this is, I think Dr. Lieberman is 1,000% correct here, because if I'm in that jury box and Savannah doesn't testify to that, that is a big, big problem for her. But let's take a listen to Amber now testifying about someone else who may take the stand to clear this up. Let's listen.
Without saying what the content is, can you tell us who this text message is with?
Johnny's assistant.
What's his name?
His name is Stephen Duders.
Okay. And what, if any, communication were you having with him following the Boston plane incident?
Objection, hearsay. May we approach?
All right, Ms. Mills. Did you communicate at all with Mr. Depp in the days following the Boston plane incident?
Yes, I did.
Please tell the jury about those communications.
I heard from him directly. I also heard from him through his assistants who were texting for him.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
You're not allowed to testify about the text messages with his assistant, but can you tell the jury about your communications with Mr. Depp?
Okay. It's kind of confusing because he was texting through them.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection. I'll strike that from the record, and you'll just regard that testimony. Please answer the question.
Just confine it to the communications you had with Mr. Depp, please.
That he was sorry and told me that he was in a blackout. He didn't remember everything, but what he did remember, he was ashamed of. He begged me to forgive him. Said he understood and forgave me if I never wanted to speak to him again.
All right, Stephen Deuters. This is Johnny Depp's assistant who was on that plane. Johnny Depp's team did not call him to the stand, Lamore. If anything happened, he saw it. Do you think Amber Heard has to call him to the stand as well?
I think that it would be helpful, but the problem is he works for Johnny Depp. So I'm not sure that it would be as helpful to her side as she may think. I think her testimony as the evidence might be all that she can work with.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, the other aspect of this communication with Stephen Deuters is he's doing some of this emailing or texting back and forth. So he's in the mix here. If I'm in the jury, I want to hear from him. I don't know exactly what he wrote in those text messages, but if he saw something and he's called to the witness stand, he's got to tell the jury what he saw.
Well, I know that he has said about these text messages that they were changed. There have been some articles with the messages in them, and he said that these were doctored. So that's why I think that she wasn't allowed to testify about it, because there's a whole question about whether these texts are accurate or not.
Big part. Now, you may recall, folks, that there was one witness whose testimony was disregarded and erased from the record and stricken. It was Gina Deuters, and you may recall her. We'll take a look at her. There she was. That's Stephen Deuters' wife, but apparently she was watching the trial, and you can't do that before she testified. So her testimony was stricken, but she was clearly a huge Johnny Depp advocate, Lamore, and that's Stephen Deuters' wife. I can't imagine how much of a supporter Stephen would be. That would be a difficult battle for Amber Heard to call him to the stand. He's not going to cooperate.
Absolutely. You're going to hear a lot of, I don't recall, and whatever that means in that context, what we know it means is that they're not going to get the information they want out of him. At least Amber's side isn't.
Maybe they'll try to get him declared a hostile witness. That's my favorite part of every trial. Lamar Mojdeh, Dr. Carol Lieberman, thank you so much. Appreciate your valuable time tonight. When we come back, folks, we got a lot more to get to. Sometimes you can't believe what people say, but do pictures lie? We'll take a look at the evidence photos next.
ugc.edu.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, the dueling defamation trial with dueling allegations of domestic abuse. Two completely different accounts of the same relationship.
And he balled up his fist, leaned back, and headbutted me square in the nose.
Never did I myself reach the point of striking Ms. Heard in any way.
It's clear that someone is not telling the truth. Someone is lying about what happened. So this hour, we take a look at some of the other evidence. The photographs of Amber, the photographs of Johnny, the images of the chaos in the Australian mansion, and ask the question, do pictures lie?
He grabbed me by the arm, and he kind of just held me on the floor, screaming at me.
Plus, an overwhelming anti-Amber Heard sentiment growing on social media. So tonight's 13th Juror question. For those of you who don't like Amber or don't believe her, what is it that makes you not like her or not believe her? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. This is the ultimate he said, she said. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. But he and she are saying completely different things. And that leads me to only one conclusion. With the way this testimony is conflicting, someone's lying. Somebody is lying. Okay? Now, how do you figure out who's lying? That's another whole program that we'll do. But tonight, I want to take a look at some of the other evidence, right? We've listened a lot to Johnny testify and Amber testify, but there are photographs in this case, photographic evidence. And we're going to spend some time this hour and ask the question, you know, people lie, yes, we know that, but do pictures lie? Let's begin with Amber Heard describing an incident, and then we'll take a look at the photos.
I stood up and he said, "Do you want to go again, tough guy?" And I just looked right at him, just looked right at his face. And he balled up his fist, leaned back, and headbutted me square in the nose. I remember being on top of me and he's screaming and swinging at me while I was on the floor. He had me by the hair and dragged me. I don't know how many times he just hit me over and over and over again, and I got really still. And it felt in my body like quiet. And I thought, this is how I die. He's gonna kill me now, and I'm not. He's gonna kill me, and he won't even have realized it.
That is Amber Heard's description of one of the many attacks she has described in front of this jury. Now, some people may believe her, and others may believe that she is just lying. But what do the pictures say? Let's take a look at one of the photos associated with this alleged attack. There it is. Something going on under the eye there a little bit. Does that coincide? Does that corroborate? Does that tell the same story that she told? What story does this picture tell? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. In Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. And in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias and the author of the book series Trapped with Ms. Arias, Kirk Nurmi, is with us. Okay, let's take another look at the picture. Eklund Mercy, what story is this picture telling you? And do pictures lie?
I don't know. That's why jury duty is so important, because it's going to be up to the jury. So we're going to have to see if, you know, similar situated women, you know, with her complexion, if she's testifying that she got headbutted in her head, in her face, and with all his might, is that conducive with those types of markings. So jury selection is going to be was the most important part of this trial. So hopefully the defense or absolutely the defense or the complainant, hopefully they both take jurors that understood what can happen if you get headbutted. So
all right.
It's going to be up to the jury.
Nima Romani, it was a headbutt, and then he kept hitting her and hitting her and hitting her. Let me put the next picture up, because there's a series of photographs from this. We're going to show you 3 of them. Here's the second one, Nima. What story is the photo telling you?
Yeah, Vinnie, there's 3 possibilities here. And then the best case scenario for Amber Heard is that these are depictions of her injuries. The problem she's going to have is it seems like her description of the injuries is more serious than the pictures of the injuries. So some folks may think that she's exaggerating her injuries, which is not going to be good for her credibility in front of the jury. The other possibility is that these are injuries, but they were caused by filler or Botox or some other type of procedure, right? That's a lot of speculation on social media. And then, of course, the worst case scenario for Amber Heard is that these are completely fabricated makeup, something like that, that she applied to take pictures of injuries that really didn't occur.
Kirk Nurmi, as we look at the third photo, a photo of her scalp, as you look at the photo of the scalp, your take on that, but also, who is the jury? You know, the jury's got to figure out the truth. Are they gonna listen to the story that is told by the photos, the story that is told by Amber? What do you think they do here?
Well, you know, I think Nima touched on something very important. Without substantiation, and Eklund referenced this as well, without substantiation, all we have is a story. And Vinnie, you can say that she's telling a story that's substantiated by the pictures. The other way to look at it might be, here's some pictures, and I'm going to tell a story based on those pictures. I'm going to exaggerate. I'm going to say that these were symptoms of abuse from other things that happened in my life. Like Nima mentioned Botox, something could have happened with her hair, independent of Johnny Depp. And I'm going to use this as a weapon against Mr. Depp, the same way she has the tapes, etc. And if I was counsel for Depp, that's the argument that I would make. If she doesn't provide any substantiation for the source of the injury, because the pictures show the injuries, they don't tell the source, and the pictures could really be the springboard to her story, her fictional story.
Interesting. Now, let's get to Johnny Depp. We'll listen to his testimony about being punched in the face. This is the incident that happened on the staircase. Amber Heard is there. Amber's sister Whitney is there as well. Let's take a listen.
The next move was just a bang, and just she clocked me in the jaw. And that was another shocker.
Again, some folks may believe him, some may think he's lying. Let's take a look at the photos now associated with this testimony. There are the pictures. Nima Romani. I will send that to you first, Nima. As you look at those pictures, what are those pictures telling you? Are they telling you that Johnny got clocked?
I think so, Vinny. And I think this is one of the very few areas in this trial where the parties actually agree. Amber Heard's testified, both in deposition and during trial, that she struck Depp. And this is actually one of the first times that she connected. Now, it's not an issue for her because we've talked about it. She can be punching Johnny and still be the victim of domestic violence. So I think she's freely admitted to using violence against him. And this is one area where the two, for once, don't disagree.
Kirk, as we look at the pictures, what are your thoughts about the picture of Johnny Depp?
Well, I think it's more consistent with the story he's telling than the pictures of Heard, right? I think there's a disconnect. The injuries that she's shown in her pictures look minor in comparison to the acts that she is imposing upon Mr. Depp. And Mr. Depp's injuries look pretty consistent with what he described in his story. And Nima's right, this is an area where they both agree. So to me, there's consistency there, and maybe these pictures build some credibility on Mr. Depp's half with the jury.
Yeah, I'm looking, Eklund, at Johnny Depp's left cheek, consistent with a right hook.
Yeah. Yeah, and just off of the lighting as well, like you can see that one picture is just lighted a little bit more clearer, just so you can see the injury, while another one is kind of a little bit darker, so you can just more suggestive. So things like that, I would definitely have had an issue with, because you really can't see the markings on her face as clearly as you can see on Mr. Depp's face.
Yeah, I mean, this is, the more I'm looking at these pictures, it is just sad. I mean, you have two movie stars, beautiful people. I mean, these are like their assets, part of their assets. Their acting skills, one, but also the way they look. And they're seemingly both getting mangled some way or somehow, sustaining injuries. And, you know, how they got those injuries, that's what this is all about. Kirk, here's a photo, December 2015. Oh, what a night, late December, right? Johnny Depp says his face was scratched by Amber Heard. Let's take a look at the scratches, if we could.
There were some scratches. Another altercation, and there were some mishearded come at me with her nails, her hand scratching at me.
And who took these photographs of you?
Once again, I believe this was Mr. Pett, Sean Pett.
And when were these photographs taken?
Seems to be Christmas, or 10 days before Christmas, the 15th of December 2015.
All right, I'm still surprised here that these two, whether it's both, I mean, there's something happening here. There's absolutely something happening. This is terrible. But the photographs are being taken, Eklund. The photographs are being taken. And like, they're together, they're not together. They've got people, you know, creating exhibits for a trial before this is 2015. This is 2015, yeah. And we're creating exhibits. I'm amazed at all of this. I'm absolutely amazed. What should we read into the fact that Johnny Depp's security is taking pictures of his face?
Because he's worth millions of dollars. This trial is millions and millions of dollars. We have $50 million at stake here. We have been on this. We have been on these boxes before, and we have seen people being killed for less, way less, for thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars. So to be here and we have $50 million on the line, we are going to hear some things. Some people are going to try to make things relevant, and rich people and famous people are no different. So it's for all the chips. So we're going to see everything. We're going to see all types of ploys from civil attorneys, all the games, all the smokes and mirrors, because a lot of money is on the line. So we're going to see it.
And all of this, go ahead.
I got to jump in for some California knowledge. Everyone should notice it's marked 273.5 at the bottom of those pictures. That's the California Penal Code for domestic violence. So years before these pictures are taken, they have a very notable marking at the bottom of that photo, that 273.5.
Wait, explain some more. What do you mean?
Yeah, so if you go back to the previous exhibit, if you see at the bottom, there's a very specific number. So not this one, Vinny, the one before, 273.5. That is the California Penal Code for domestic violence. Could be a misdemeanor, could be a felony. So you're seeing an exhibit years before this case that has a very specific marking. So whoever took it, whoever put that information there is thinking, hey, this is something that's going to be used as evidence in some sort of domestic violence case.
Fascinating. Okay. Now, let's go further back. Let's go to their honeymoon. They took a ride on the Orient Express. Here's Malcolm Connolly, Johnny Depp's bodyguard, talking about a photo from the honeymoon. Let's listen.
This picture is Miss Heard and Johnny's honeymoon on the Orient Express on the East Line from Bangkok to Singapore. You travel through Malaysia. Like I said, on the left-hand side under his eye, there's a swelling. And you see a swelling just on the left-hand side of his nose and under his left eye.
Kirk Nermy, this is the honeymoon. The honeymoon. And we've got a picture of Johnny Depp bruised up on the honeymoon?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of hard to believe, but it's not inconsistent with what we know about domestic violence, right? A wedding and a ceremony, etc., isn't going to stop the abuse if there is abuse. It's not going to stop the violence. That act in and of itself of getting married isn't going to do anything. As a matter of fact, if we take Dr. Curry's word, and Ms. Heard is borderline and more worried about him leaving than anything else, then this kind of event even makes that fear even greater. So it would make sense that she would act out at this point in time.
It's incredible. It's incredibly sad, too. I mean, this whole scenario that we're watching play out, but it's real. It happened. And as Eklund said, there is a lot at stake here. When we come back, the biggest blow-up between these two, I believe, happened down in Australia. And there were a lot of photos from Australia. We'll take a look at some of them when we come back.
at joincalibrate.com.
In way of conversation, wasn't a great deal, to be honest. I did sort of say finally, so what happened? You know, obviously referring to the house. And I mean, she didn't give much explanation, if any. She did say, Ben, have you ever been so angry with someone you just lost it with them? And I sort of said, no.
That could be a very significant moment in this case. That was the house manager from down in Australia, the one who was managing the house that got trashed by Johnny and or Amber Heard, depending on whose version you're listening to, right? But there she is. Is she making an admission there that she got so angry with Johnny that she just lost it, and that's what happened down in Australia? Let's take a look at what happened in Australia, because there was lots of photos of it. Here's Johnny Depp describing for this jury, you know, what happened and how he ends up painting the walls with some of his own blood.
I don't know what a nervous breakdown feels like, but that's probably the closest that I've ever been. Nothing made sense. And I knew in my mind and in my heart, this is not life. This is not life. No one should have to go through this. I started to write with my blood, in my own blood, on the walls. Little reminders from our past that essentially represented lies that she had told me and lies that I had caught her in.
Okay, we're taking a look at the photos right now, right? You can believe or not believe the witnesses, but you know, the photos basically tell the story. Let's take a look at this one. This one apparently says Billy Bob and Easy Amber. Billy Bob Thornton, Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, accusing them of perhaps doing something together that they should not have done. Let's bring back in the think tank, Eklund Mercy, Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nurmi with us. Nima, this is, no matter what you think, this is not normal behavior. You know,
it's not.
It's not. He's painting and writing on the walls of a home. He doesn't own the home. He's using his blood and wine and paint for all of this. What story are these pictures telling, like Billy Bob and Easy Amber?
It's not good for Johnny Depp. I think he did a good job getting out ahead of it. I mean, he talked about this really kind of pain and drug-induced psychosis he went through, and it was relatively believable. Then Amber Heard comes back and talks about how Johnny Depp is controlling, jealous. So these are clearly good pictures for Amber Heard. That's why they're marked there on the bottom as defense exhibits. I mean, this is something that Heard's team wanted the jurors and really the entire world to see, as well as those recordings, to say, hey, the Johnny Depp that's calm, cool, charming on the witness stand is not the Johnny Depp that I was married to.
All right, Kirk Nurmi, I'm going to put you in the category of 70s music for $50. Let's put up the next photo. The message on this photo says, in the red, call Carly Simon. She said it better, babe. Kirk Nurmi, what did Carly Simon say?
I guess he's calling Amber Heard vain. Vinny, do I win?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that it?
Exactly.
All right, I win. All right. I'm going to go for double jeopardy later. But yeah, you know, I got to disagree a little bit to get back on a serious note with Nima. I got to disagree because I think this is consistent with the nervous breakdown as Johnny described it. It's actually consistent with him being a victim of abuse, him being gaslit, and him just absolutely not knowing what to do and losing control. So I think it's just as helpful to Mr. Depp as it is to Ms. Heard in this case.
Final photo says, good luck and be careful at the top. I'm not sure what that means necessarily, but Eklund, how significant do you think? You know what? I'm going to move on. I want to move on to the next set of photos for you, Eklund. Here's Amber Heard. And this is a crucial moment because I wasn't expecting this testimony. It's testimony about a bottle.
What more do you recall?
You had, sorry, it took me a minute to respond because it's hard. It took me a minute to respond because I had not remembered seeing the bottle that Johnny was using on me. I didn't have a memory of seeing it. And this picture, I wasn't aware of until just the other day, yesterday, the day before. And I felt my stomach tighten up, like I was gonna be sick when I saw it. Because even though I didn't remember seeing the bottle, what I had remembered is a pressure, like something square, which is why I thought he was punching me. And I hadn't seen this bottle, I didn't know. And then this came out in Ben's evidence because he didn't share it until this date.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
And so I recognize it.
All right, Eklund, this, you know, you don't expect something like this, right? Like, I haven't seen this photo now. All of a sudden, I remember the bottle that was used to sexually assault me. How important is that photo? Does that photo add to her credibility, detract from her credibility?
It doesn't help at all. It's even if it, just the fact that it came out of nowhere, I don't see how it helps her credibility. And then we have a bottle, and as a woman, you know, if I'm on the jury and you're telling me that you've been sexually assaulted with a bottle and you don't know if it was a bottle or not, these questions are issues that a jury is going to have issues with. But then again, we are at $50 million. People seek to lose $50 million. So the jury is going to have an understanding of that and is going to want to ask questions why criminal charges weren't, you know, why didn't we have criminal charges? Why didn't you seek a police report if you believe that he assaulted you with a bottle? I know these are issues with this particular case. I don't want to say that all victims are gonna, you know, share an outcry, but with this particular case, if she had the ability or the wherewithal to take pictures of her injuries on her face, a lot of the jury's going to see if something as bad as that, why are we just hearing it now? When you've had time in your Australia trial to bring that up, when we had time in your op-ed to bring it up, when you had time in all these other things to bring that up, now we're saying, you know, the sexual assault with a bottle is something that you just didn't say. On cross, it's going to have to come up because it just seems out of place.
Now, let's take a look at some of the blood and bottles behind the bar where part of this blow-up occurred. You look at the scene down in Australia, Nima Rahmani, it's a mess. Something happened here. We know his finger was severed, and the big question for the jury is, did he do it to himself? Did she do it to him? Do these pictures tell any story for you?
Well, the pictures tell a story of violence, but Vinnie, I got to respond to Eklund, and that's why, you know, by all accounts, there are more men on this jury because women tend to be harder on women in sexual assault cases. So, you know, we got Exhibit A right there, and you know, she took pictures of her face, but I think she has a a very easy response that when you're sexually assaulted, I don't know many victims that take pictures of their vagina when they're sexually assaulted. So, you know, she tells a really sad story of both of the cavity search and the sexual assault with the bottle. I don't think these pictures really, you know, prove or disprove her case one way or the other. Those two incidents really are about her credibility and her, if the jury believes her or not. Because again, unless, you know, Johnny Depp's fingers or these bottles were tested for DNA and which they were not, it's not really going to add anything. And by the way, to add one other point, why didn't she press charges? I think Amber Heard's going to say, I don't want to be here. I didn't file this lawsuit. I did not sue my ex. You know, I walked away from a divorce. Johnny's the one that brought this case, and I just filed a counterclaim because he dragged me into court there in Virginia. So I think she's got a good response to that as well.
All right, when we come back, we've got some breaking news tonight involving another case that we have been tracking out of Moab, Utah. Honeymoon couple, recently married, murdered. They were living the van life. There is now big news in that investigation. We will have it for you when we return.
at Knix.com.
And we've got some breaking news tonight in a case we've been following here on Closing Arguments. It involves a couple recently married that were murdered. Their bodies were found August 18th of this year. There they are, Kylan Schulte, Crystal Turner. It was a horrific case, shot and killed at a campsite in Moab. It's near Moab, Utah, right around the time when Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie were in the area. But now we're getting information from the Grand County Sheriff out there saying they've identified a suspect. Adam Pinkowitz is his name. That's his picture, but they're not looking for him tonight. That's because shortly after these murders, Adam Pinkowitz took his own life. I want to bring in a couple of special guests joining us by phone tonight. We've got with us from Moab, Utah, Kylan Schulte's father, Sean Paul Schulte, and the private investigator hired by Kylan Schulte's family, Jason Jensen, with us. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much. Sean Paul, how are you doing tonight, and your reaction to this news?
Vinnie, we did it. Thank you, Vinnie. We did it. JJ, the sheriffs, the tips that came into my clue booth, dog coming to help put pressure. I can't tell you, Vinnie, I'm floored. We did it. We did it, Vinnie.
This is a huge development tonight. Jason Jensen, your thoughts about how all of this came together and what details you know tonight?
Yes, thanks, Vinnie. It all really started with the hard work that Sean Paul did initially, all on his own, when he opened up and manned a clue booth at Swanee Park here in Moab. People were coming to him, giving him clues, like 37 of them, and Adam was one of them. And so what was interesting about this, if not for the stories of a creeper dude at the campsite, this guy really stands out because he was a co-worker at McDonald's where Crystal worked, and right after their disappearance and murder, Adam takes off and doesn't even bother to pick up his final check. So that's a red flag in any homicide.
Yeah, Sean Paul, I can hear your excitement tonight. Explain to the folks at home, because we cover so many of these unsolved cases, the difference for you tonight, knowing who your daughter's killer was, has been identified, and will not be harming anyone else, is no longer around to hurt anyone, what this means.
Vinnie, look, it's unbelievable. I'm on cloud nine. I do not have to face him in court. He's already been sentenced to hell. The girls are now resting in peace, and I already am starting to heal, Vinnie. There was a strain and a stress that was crippling my heart with cramps, like as if I wasn't drinking water, and it's lifted, Vinnie.
Sean Paul, as Jason Jensen pointed out, it was your love, your passion, your determination that did this. Please, can you send a message out tonight to other families who have unsolved cases to give them a sense of hope and a sense of motivation tonight?
Absolutely. Keep the faith. Go open a clue booth. Find yourself a private investigator. Put the number out there and let the public tell you something that they might not tell the sheriffs, and just see what happens. And oh my goodness, Vinnie, I can't believe the families, the friends, Moab. We're inviting everybody to go up on Moab's mountain and have a party.
I'm so glad to hear your voice tonight, Sean Paul. Jason, Jensen.
Well, nice to hear yours too, Vinny.
Absolutely. Jason, you know, we always say someone knows something in all of these cases. And in this case, someone knew something and someone said something. It's the second part that is so difficult to get people to come forward and provide the information and give that name and give that tip. But the feeling for everyone involved in this is, I'm hearing euphoria tonight, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see this really coming. We came down here to Moab with Dog the Bounty Hunter, expecting to at least put in a full week, not knowing what the outcome would be by the end of the week. So here we are, 48 hours into it. The case is being announced as solvable. You know, they have their suspect. There's not going to be any charges, but they just have to build up their case to give everyone final resolution that there's a, they'll make a determination at some point that this is a closed case because so-and-so was likely the perpetrator.
Yeah, and what have you learned about him, Jason?
Well, there's really not much to really share with everybody because much of the information about Adam Pinkowitz is really unknown to the rest of us. He was only here in Moab for like a few months. So he was transient in the first place. So it wasn't a Moabite, but he was here long enough to, become familiar with his victims. They worked together. And so he worked with Crystal, who was in a lesbian relationship. His boss was in a lesbian relationship. He felt that there was disparate treatment at the workplace because he thought Crystal and Kylan got preferential treatment. That is not rational. That is not, a healthy mind.
Not at all.
I've said all along for 9 months, the end result is going to be severely mental.
Absolutely. Okay, this is what I want you to do, Sean Paul, tonight, as we're looking at these beautiful pictures. Tell us once again about your daughter, and then finish with a message to her. First, tell us about her, and then send a message to her about how you're feeling tonight.
Well, Kylan and Crystal were amazing. They were bright lights. They both worked full-time jobs. They struggled with trying to find a safe place to live, and that's something that I'm going to push for in the future, Vinny, is my Sunny Rose Housing Foundation. So that, because Vinny, I feel like, if these girls were locked safely in a home, they might still be around. But the girls were a super bright light. They came out of the darkness, both of them. They met each other. They fell madly in love. That light has shone brightly all through my family and Crystal's family and Moab. Vinny, I'm just on cloud nine tonight. But let me just say that those girls were wonderful, and that it's my mom's birthday today, and that Mom was right months ago when she said, Moab, keep that light bright. And I feel like now the light is brighter, Vinny. I feel like Moab can go to teacups and swim. I feel like Moab can go up on the mountain and camp again.
Absolutely. Sean Paul, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we're able to do this because the case has been solved. Jason Jensen, incredible work by you as well. What passion you bring to these investigations, and our best to both of you, and we'll speak again down the road. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Court TV.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Wow. Unsolved case, solved. Thank you for your help. Whoever gave that tip, God bless you. We'll be right back.
at joincalibrate.com.
Remember, he hit me in the face when I denied having an affair with my ex-wife, my ex-partner at the time. And he said he had proof. I denied it. And I was walking out of the bedroom, slapped me across the face. I turned to look at him. And I said, Johnny, you hit me. You just hit me.
That is one of the moments of Amber Heard's testimony that is being mocked on social media. I mean, people are reenacting that moment and kind of acting out what she's describing. It's just part of the overwhelming anti-Amber Heard sentiment that you're seeing on social media. The numbers are astronomical. So today on social media, I posted a question because I know there's a lot of people out there who don't believe Amber Heard, and there's a lot of people who don't like Amber Heard. So I asked, if you're one of those people who don't believe her or don't like her, tell me, what is it that makes you not like her? What is it that makes you not believe her? We begin with our 13th juror comment of the day. Coming from Debbie, who says, I do not believe her. Anyone violated with a glass bottle and bleeding would have a hospital report. With all the violence she said she suffered, there should be proof. And she lied about the makeup she used to cover bruises. So if she will lie about a small thing like that, lying is second nature to her. Let's bring back in our think tank. Kirk Nurmi, if this jury believes that she's telling little lies, they're entitled to discount all of her testimony.
Sure, and while I agree with some of what Debbie's saying, I certainly don't agree with all of it in terms for the reasons we've talked about related to sexual assault, et cetera. But I think this goes back to, Vinnie, the ultimate answer to your question is, as I see it, is we go back to the testimony of Dr. Curry. What does she do? She outlines the characteristics of borderline personality and what their goals are, and attachment and things of that nature, right? Fear that they're going to be left behind. And then we see in Amber Heard's testimony characteristics that are consistent with what Dr. Curry said. So that casts suspicion on what Amber Heard has to say when we get on the stand, because we're really, is the jury looking at Amber Heard and the court of public opinion as well, looking at her like someone who is borderline, who is trying to actualize her anger against the person who left her.
Bob, tonight, because she doesn't sound believable. With the recordings she has of her degrading Depp, why doesn't she have recordings or video of Depp abusing her? So, Eklund, here you've got someone who's not believing her because he's not seeing more corroboration of her testimony.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because it's like you have these life-altering scenarios. Like, again, we have the bottle situation, and as a woman, like, just thinking about the amount of damage that it can be done and the amount of detail that we don't hear. Was the top of the bottle on there? Was it not? What happened after the bottle? How could you not tell the difference? Like, these are actual questions that will be, will be needing an answer in the jury room. So the fact that
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, just the fact that we just have glaring just holes and it's just inconsistent, and the pictures kind of seem convenient to the narrative that she's trying to play now for this particular trial. It's just really hard for her. I think that she's, it's just really hard. It's just looking really hard for Amber's squad right now.
Valerie, tonight, brilliant question. I don't understand why people are standing by Johnny Depp. He's an actor as well, so why is he getting a pass? He can be lying about those awful incidents because he knows he will be blackballed. Nima Rahmani, what's your take on why it's an overwhelming anti-Amber? I mean, the numbers. TikTok, Justice for Johnny Depp, 10.5 billion views, billion with a B. Justice for Amber Heard, 36 million. What is it?
Yeah, Vinny, it's not even close, and we've covered everything. Rittenhouse, George Floyd, I mean, some of the most controversial cases, but nothing has been as overwhelming as this case. And I'm gonna give you two reasons. One, Johnny Depp is very likable. The ladies love him. Look at that courtroom. It's packed. People are lining up from the night.
But it's not just Johnny Depp fans, Neem. It's not just Johnny Depp fans. People are kind of neutral on it.
Well, then, and there's men that are upset at the Me Too movement, and they hate Amber Heard because they see her as the face of it, the face of false accusations. So in the back of a lot of men's mind is that fear that I'm going to be falsely accused of sexual assault or domestic violence, or I know someone that has. So it's this combination of forces, mix in TikTok and social media, and now it's just trendy to make fun of Amber Heard. Literally, there are TikTok trends about this that everyone's doing, Vinny.
Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nurmi, Eklund Mercy, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. We'll be right back. Okay, folks, we need some help. I'm going to put a photograph up on the screen. This is a missing child. Please take a close look. Heidi Kakchuk, 14 years old, missing from Laverne, California since April 11th. If you see Heidi, you can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call right there on the screen. The Laverne Police Department number is right there. Study her face, and please, let's see if we can get Heidi home where she'll be safe. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Vinnie Politan. Have a great night, and as always, don't forget to hug the kids.
What have you lost as a result of Ms. Heard making these allegations against you?
Nothing less than everything.
He said over and over again, be my woman forever. I want you to be my wife, my wife. And I felt like the luckiest woman in the world.
Just took the knife out and I said, here, ultimately you've taken everything. You want my blood, take it. If she wasn't gonna do it,